All of a sudden, Spike's Breezeway cocktail hour has turned into a cookie show. Aloha, folks. Welcome back to Spike's Breezeway cocktail hour. What is going on here? This doesn't look like our normal setup at all. Usually this thing's full of fruit. Usually there's more bottles over here and an ice bucket. But I'll tell you right now, even though this is Southern California, it is freezing in the Breezeway today. But before we get to that, I want to say I hope you guys enjoyed last week's show with the people from the Contigo Tiki Bar, Greg and Anna, talking about how they are bringing back these incredible hanging Chinese lantern garnishes. Once again, please go to their website if you want to buy one of these. I'm not saying it because they need orders, I'm saying it because maybe you need one of these. Do you know what I mean? All right. So on with the show. We are going to make something that necessitates the Breezeway stove again. And actually, I need to get this thing going because we're gonna have to boil some water. We're gonna be doing a cocktail from at least 1947. The reason I know that is because it pops up in Trader Vic's bartender's guide from 1947. And it's a drink, well, it's a drink called the Hot Buttered Rum. In the later years, they used this adorable little glass, the Hot Buttered Rum glass. But as depicted in the 1970s version of Trader Vic's bartender's guide, they say to use the skull mug. So finally, I get to use this skull mug for something. Now, I've made the Hot Buttered Rum a ton of times before from the Total Tiki app, but it wasn't the traditional Trader Vic's version of the Hot Buttered Rum. It was like a pat of butter and then some dark Jamaican rum and what else is in that? I don't know, some other stuff. But I'd always heard about the mix and I was like, well, the one that I make doesn't have mix in it. But I got these Trader Vic's bartender's guides and there's this whole big mix that you have to make. So for this cocktail, we will be using ground cinnamon, ground nutmeg, ground cloves, 1/4 pound of soft butter, a pound of brown sugar, a pinch of salt, boiling water, and from Don Q, the Cristal, a light Puerto Rican rum. So while we're making this thing, we're gonna be heating up some boiling water here to use to heat up the mug while we're making the drinks. I think it's like akin to putting ice water into a martini glass before you dump that out and then pour martini into the martini glass. That's what I'm thinking. I do enjoy this thing happening in front of me while I'm doing this. It feels more laboratory-esque. So as this is heating up, we're gonna start making the batter. We will be using this thing here. And for the first time ever on the show, I'm gonna be using a whisk. So, okay, so it says to start with a 1/4 pound of butter. This comes from a pound of butter, so, and there are 4 of these things in there, so I'd imagine this is a 1/4 of a pound. You wanna let the butter sit out for a little while so that it gets at least pliable, so it's not like a rock hard stick of butter, although I don't know how soft this is gonna be. It is really cold outside. Already I'm like, am I gonna drink this much hot buttered rum this holiday season? I have this giant stick of butter in here already. I'm like, oh, all right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna combine the butter with this pound of sugar. Okay. Oh, this is, oh, for God's sakes. Okay, I'm gonna use a fork just to knock this thing down into pieces. Sheesh. I'll tell you a little something about the Hot Buttered Rum though. I remember when the owner of Don the Beachcomber in Sunset Beach, Art Snyder, discovered the Hot Buttered Rum. He would have the bartenders make him a hot buttered, well, probably a couple hot buttered rums just about every night. Eventually he passed away, and I think it was a heart attack. This is a lot of butter. This is not a healthy cocktail. This is probably really a dessert. So I would say be sparing on how much you drink of this, because there's, I mean, look at all this brown sugar and butter. This is ridiculous. The recipe book says that you want to whip it until it's totally creamed and fluffy, which seem kind of like two opposite things. Cream and fluffy kind of seem like different things, but I think it's getting to that point. It feels like it's been totally combined. Meanwhile, the water is going over here. Who knew that I have a cooking show? That was never the intention. That's the consistency that we have right now. Oh my God. Who would ever thought that butter and brown sugar are so good together? Here, let me slide that stuff over. Okay, so let's get into the spices now. Let's start with the ground nutmeg. We're gonna do half a teaspoon of ground nutmeg. Huh. I don't know what I was expecting, but not that. Half a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. And half a teaspoon of ground cloves. Ooh, a new thing of ground cloves. Because I use ground cloves so much. Oh, that smells good. It almost smells like, well, it smells like allspice, but allspice is really the combination of ground cloves, ground nutmeg, and ground cinnamon. So it's all of the spices. Okay, I'm gonna put that in there too. And I got rid of my whisk because I think a fork is a little bit, the fork doesn't get as clogged up as the whisk does. And we're just gonna combine all that stuff. If you're gonna make this, really be sure to let the butter sit out for a while. Or maybe even heat it up a little bit just so that it will be a little bit more pliable. My butter was pretty hard, so it's, you know, it's gonna be harder to work with that way. This is starting to feel like something. It's starting to feel like a mix. Or something I'm gonna bake into brownies. Oh my God. I gotta stop eating just plain sugar. I guess it's combined, I don't know. I've been working it for a while now. The bummer about this is the amount that you use of this actual stuff is like so little. So I'm gonna have a ton of hot buttered rum batter. Before we get into the drink, I forgot to tell you that there's another element to this drink. You might have noticed this guy. This is a vintage tiki hibachi. I've only used it maybe once or twice. It's pretty rare, but I had an idea. Part of this drink constitutes plunging a red hot poker into the drink. But look what I got. Yeah, I don't know if this is the proper knife or whatever. This is an authentic Polynesian dagger made in Pakistan. We're gonna heat this dagger up and we're gonna use this as the red hot poker. They did this at Trader Vic's in the 1940s and 50s. Like, can you imagine that? Sorry about the knife. Can you even imagine that? Like bringing a red hot poker to your table and putting it into your drink? It's before the days of lawsuits and people getting burned by McDonald's cups, you know? Tougher people back then. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we need to figure out a way to heat this thing up. So we're gonna light the fire in here until I can afford my own Breezeway cocktail hour matches. Somebody just suggested that to me. It's kind of a cool idea. I'm gonna be using Tonga Hut matches from our friends at the Tonga Hut in Palm Springs, California, and Hollywood. Okay, we have the fire going in there. Put the dagger in the fire. We got it, it's going. Things are happening now. I almost forgot, we need a pinch of salt. So I have it in my shaker here. I'm just gonna pour some into my hand. Take a pinch. Yeah, left shoulder. Ah, shit. It's got salt all over my stuff. Good luck, I guess. So we're gonna beat in that salt. So it kind of has the consistency of like wet sand at the beach. Like dry wet sand at the beach, if that makes any sense. Except way more tasty. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is we are going to put some of this hot water into the mug, and this is just to heat up the mug. Okay, so it's heating. This is such an elaborate presentation. This is like my favorite part of tiki. The stuff where the drink is just over the top. When you order it, there's a whole presentation that happens. The guy comes to the table with this glass of hot water. I guess he dumps it out, and then he puts the batter into the mug. Okay, so that's where we pick up now. What's going on over here? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna dump out this water. We're gonna put, as per Victor Bergeron, 1 heaping teaspoon of the batter into the mug. Then we're gonna add the rum. Then we're gonna add the water. Then we're gonna hit it with the hot dagger. Then we're gonna use the cinnamon stick as the decoration. I think I have everything. For the rum, it's gonna be 1.5 ounces of light Puerto Rican rum. Okay, so we'll get rid of the hot water first. As you can see, the mug is still crazy hot. So that was the intent of that. Hot mug, 1 heaping teaspoon. Are we calling that a heaping teaspoon? I kind of think so. We'll put that in there. Let's move this to the side. We are gonna add the rum now. 1.5 ounces of light Puerto Rican rum. Ooh, this is from our show buddy, Scott Parker, who likes to donate rum to the show. So if you'd like to be like Scott, I will accept rum. Cheers, Scott, thanks so much. The rum goes into the mug. The next step is to add hot water. Okay, hot water. Let me turn this off now. All right, and we're gonna take the red hot poker and plunge it into the drink. And so from the 1940s, this is Trader Vic's Hot Buttered Rum. Rad. For the first time in my life, a proper hot buttered rum in the correct glass that it was served in. Yeah, that's so good. Oh my God. You get all the spices. You get the cinnamon, you get the cloves, you get the allspice, and then the butter, brown sugar. I mean, how can you possibly go wrong with this cocktail? I don't think you should have this every night. I think this is probably wildly fattening. I think your cholesterol would go through the roof, but a once in a while treat for like a special occasion. It is just delightful. I think the intent of the cinnamon stick is also to be used to stir up that big glob of stuff that we put in there. Wow. Oh! I haven't done this in a while, and I wonder, there it is, right there. Trader Vic's Hot Buttered Rum. No way. It says famous at Trader Vic's for over 50 years, strong, spicy, not too sweet. I would totally agree with that writing. I really got to figure out what year this thing's from. I feel like this menu might be from the 70s. Well, okay, so if this came out in 47, oh, maybe this is newer. Maybe this is 80s or 90s. This menu might be 80s or 90s. Because if it says for 50 years, and this was in the 1947 recipe book, so what's 47 plus 50 is... So maybe this is from 1997. Wow, my super vintage Trader Vic's menu is from 1997. It's kind of a bum out, but at the same time, we've been using it as a roadmap here and there, and it's always interesting to see the drinks as they're depicted, and to see the ones that have stood the test of time too, that started 50 years ago and are still being used at Trader Vic's today. Wow, that's really cool. This is a tasty one, man. So you get the heat not only from the drink, but you also get the heat from the rum. So that kind of has a little bit of a fire to it. I tell you, well, that doesn't really do anything. It's very well insulated. It's funny because the glass, it looks like a giant drink, but the glass is actually like probably, well, it's probably about like that. It's probably the same as this. They went on this glass later on in the years. I'm not sure exactly when. This feels 70s maybe, 70s, 80s to me. They probably had too many people stealing these things, to be honest. But like, can you imagine it being 1947 or 50 or whenever this came out? This probably came out in the late 50s, early 60s. Can you imagine being the 1950s, watching I Love Lucy and the Honeymooners and stuff like that, and then going to a restaurant and they serve you this? That's what tiki is all about. Tiki is all about escapism. It's all about going to a restaurant, but not just a restaurant. You're traveling to a distant land where somebody is handing you a human skull to drink out of. Isn't that rad? That's so exciting to me. It's always exciting to me. It's always exciting for me to rediscover tiki. Even though I've had this mug for years and years and years, it's always just kind of sat on the bar over there and collected dust. I ran this through the dishwasher because it literally sat over there and collected dust and spiders and stuff. But to be able to rediscover this mug and to rediscover a cocktail from 1947, at least from 1947, and then be able to go through the ritual of drinking like they did in the 50s or early 60s. It's pretty amazing. I hope you enjoyed this episode and this cooking show as much as I did. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Spread the word. Tell people if you enjoy this, tell people that you enjoy it. It's, I don't think there's anything like this on the internet. I don't think so. Thank you so much once again for joining me on Spike's Breezeway Cocktail Hour, and I'll see you in the next cocktail video. Aloha. Aloha. Is this thing on? Yeah. Now I've hit. Is this light good? Or should we use a? We should use a real Puerto Rican rum. You know what? Wonder if anybody will notice that was a different bottle before. So I'm gonna have a ton of. What's this called? Come on, man. What the hell kind of matches are these? Come on, Murph. It's either matches. Just kidding. It's not very red hot. You really think a candle was gonna do this? I really hope this handle doesn't get hot. It's like some Pakistani heat-resistant metal. Oh wait, no, it's starting to turn red now. Woo! Even as liberal as they were with things back in the day, I still don't think Trader Vic would have been cool with his employees heating up a Dagger. All right, it's a piece of cinnamon. Oh man. It's really good. I don't know if I could have another one of these. Well, I got everything out here. Let's see, 1.5 ounces of rum. That'll be 3 ounces of rum. Earlier I had 3 ounces of rum. That'll be 6 ounces of rum. Making these videos is like one of the most fun things for me. Oh, and by the way, I don't know if I just updated the Hula Girls web store. If you're a collector of vinyl, we have the Exotic and the Rocking. This is a 4-song 45 that my band put out, featuring a song called Jungle Girl that's like kind of a 60s go-go thing. The Enchanted Sea, which is a reimagination of a Martin Denny song. We actually even did a music video for it right here in the Breezeway. I'll put the link in the description below. The Isle of Rum Boogie, which is kind of a rockabilly thing about traveling to a distant island. And then Don Ho Bop, which is Pober. Who the hell's Pober? Don Ho Bop. Wait, he gets the songwriting credit? Even though I rewrote the song? I guess he wrote the melody? What's up with that, High Tide? I'm just kidding. High Tide does amazing stuff. Anyway, it was an instrumental I wrote around the musical idea of Tiny Bubbles. Even though that's like a 70s song, it's a Don Ho song, it's not really tiki, but Don Ho. And then we just re-released our debut record, The Curse of the Tiki, on High Tide Recordings. High Tide Recordings went out and had it repressed. And wait, dig this. Translucent sea glass vinyl with a pink label. How rad is this? And the songs are good, man. I wrote these things like a decade ago. But I think that for the tiki world, people have called them classics. Also, we shot the cover at Don the Beachcomber. This is Going Into the Hidden Village, and this is in the Dagger bar. And incidentally, my ex-girlfriend will be forever emblazoned on the debut record of my band. That's Astro's mom. That's my dog's mom. But what a great cover, right? She was so good for the record. So if you're a vinyl collector or you just want to have a cool art piece, these will probably not be re-released, re-released. So buy them now. Buy them while you can. Should I make another one of these? I'm kind of thinking I should. There's got to be so much sugar in each one of these things. It's got to be ridiculous, right? This is like eating birthday cake. But it's so good. What do you think? One more? Yeah. It said 1 heaping teaspoon. Oh, it's in here. So we got that. Get in there. And then 1.5 ounces of this. This is so gluttonous of me, but this thing's good, man. Okay, I'm gonna mush that up a little bit, even though it really isn't necessary. The hot water kind of makes it dissolve, I think, real fast. And then, okay, we gotta heat this thing up again. Pour some water in here. Let me turn on the torch. Oh, there we go. Okay. Is this good for daggers? It doesn't matter. I literally bought this dagger for this show. And I know that they didn't use a dagger at Trader Vic's, but Don the Beachcomber was really famous for a certain dagger that he had, and I think he collected it from World War II. And actually it was hanging at Don the Beachcomber in the dagger bar. It had been stolen, and finally the kid who had it all these years, I think his dad passed away who had stolen it or something, and he finally returned it to Art Snyder, who was the heir to most of Don's stuff. Okay, so we have our dagger red hot. Red hot. It's so rad. I don't know why people have to try to make tiki more exciting than it already is. Like with animatronics and stuff, like there's already rad stuff about it. The history is amazing. All right, beat it, dagger. Oh no, I think I'm getting buzzed from here. Hey, who else do you guys want to see back on the show from past guests? Mention in the comments below. Vote for who you want to see back on the show. By no means have I run out of guests, but I know we've had a lot of fun with a lot of guests, and it might be fun to bring some of them back already, you know? Well, that's not as hot as I thought it would be.